In response to Dr. Paul Krugman's article in the New York Times on Friday, September 25th, 2015. I don't remember what he named it, but I'm going to call it, "What About My Clean VW Diesel?" Now, a member of my family has a VW diesel car. Bought it brand new several years ago, 43, 44 miles to the gallon. I remember going to the dealership. I remember looking up stuff ahead of time with that person in terms of the pollution that it would give. It got great gas mileage. It had low pollution. Obviously, it wasn't an electric car, so it didn't have that amount. But we were very happy with the decision. And of course, boom! Now we find out that VW put some software in there. The algorithms were such that it knew when it was being tested for emissions control and gave out a reading that said that it was lower than or about what the emissions control should be for a VW. And in the meantime, when it wasn't being detected as being emissions control, it threw out all kinds of ungodly, obnoxious, stenchous gas particles into the air, which was really totally the antithesis of why we bought that car. And Dr. Krugman points this out. And of course, this is an instance where maybe or maybe not, the guy at Volkswagen who was running it knew about it, but he bit one and he resigned. But of course, he did get a $67 million golden parachute. But what Dr. Krugman is talking about is good regulation, effective regulation. He also pointed out that just last week, somebody in the peanut industry, some guy who was making peanut butter, sold some faulty peanut butter, knowing that it was bad. Some people died. A lot of people got sick. He's going to prison for 28 years. And also there has been, and it isn't funny, it is sort of funny, is that, what type of a-hole is this 32-year-old pharmaceutical guy who's really a hedge fund kind of guy, where he buys a drug that's over 60 years old, I believe, that was selling for $13.50 and has jacked the price up to $750. And there aren't any regulations on the book where we can go after this guy, or the United States can go after this guy for what it does. Now remember, this is a hedge fund guy, so let me tell you how this little wagon wheel goes around here, is that the hedge fund guys don't have to pay nearly as much in taxes as they do, so they can accumulate a lot more wealth. And of course, there's more income discrepancy between the rich and the poor, and they use that extra income to do what he just did, which is to buy companies and to then jack up the price of the whole thing to make it back the profit that they want when they bought the company in the first place. And in the meantime, they're screwing the average American person out of all of that, when the money that they should have been paying in taxes should have gone to, increase funding for education, increase school lunch programs, increase in money for the Securities and Exchange Commission and things like that. See how that all evolves around there. So who's getting screwed in all of that? It's the average consumer. Myself, as a owner of a Volkswagen diesel, and then other people all across the nation for the other things, buying peanut butter. We need to have efficient, effective, and we need to have enough money in there so that we can regulate these industries. And guess what? If these are the ones that got caught, and in the banks, when they get caught, they just pay the fine. That's the price they have to pay. We need to send people to jail when they're doing things that are wrong. Now remember, the big reason for this, for good governance, is that this governance has been lacking for a long time. Ever since Ronald Reagan got into power, there has been some type of precept, this concept, this false narrative that everything that business does is good. And the best way for us to get on track and having more jobs is to get rid of all of this stinking regulation, okay? Because that's what Ronnie preached. And of course, right now, this is what's going on in the 2016 election. You see Hillary Clinton yesterday or the day before came out against the Keystone Pipeline. Yesterday or the day before, Jeb Bush had an article in the Wall Street Journal, and of course he talked in very quaint generalities in terms of getting rid of job-killing regulations, and indicated that Obamacare was a job killer, even though that we know that there have been, since the ink was signed on Obamacare, there have been millions of jobs in the United States. I believe it's 6 or 7 million since then. And how many jobs were created in his brother's administration, where he cut taxes all over the place? A net of 1 million jobs through that entire 8-year period. The 8 years before that, in the Clinton administration, a net plus 22 million jobs. So where is this coming from that Bush is saying? You know, and what else? You know, what are the things that Jeb wants to decrease these job-killing regulations? He wants to decrease getting rid of carbon. We need to. Carbon is one of the big things that is causing global climate change, and he wants to get rid of regulations on carbon. He especially also wants to get rid of regulations on coal ash. Now that may seem like, oh, what the heck is that? Well, when you burn coal and then you have all this ash left over, there's all kinds of heavy metals in there that are very detrimental to the environment. And of course, this is for the utilities industries that have been burning this stuff for 50 years. They have these huge pits around them, and some of them have broken open and gotten all over the place. This is the kind of regulation Jeb wants to do. Jeb also wants to, put a limit on, doesn't want to limit the for-profit education. Now, a number of them have gone out of business. We know that they prey on people in the military. They tell them that they're going to get them jobs, and they get them in, and they get most of their money from government loans, so to speak, and then they don't provide a good education, and they don't provide a way to jobs. And most of these people drop out because they can't do the whole thing. And guess what? They're left with that debt for the rest of their life. That's what Jeb wants. Let's just keep that going. Yeah, let's keep that going. He wants to decrease in terms of also Wall Street regulations, big bank regulations, and all of that stuff. And of course, look what happened when we did that to the big banks in 2008. What happened there? So what we have here is someone from VW resigned. They're going to have a recall and fix all that kind of stuff. A guy that did peanuts is in jail for 28 years because he shipped tainted peanuts, and he knew it, because he wanted to make an extra buck, because he wanted to make his bonus. And then we also had that crazy nutcase hedge fund guy who took a drug that was over 60 years old and bought the company that sells this drug and increased the price that was at $13.50 per pill to $750 per pill. So we need good governance. We need good regulation. We need to have the government regulate these things so that they can do their job correctly. Because ever since Ronnie, everything has been get rid of government. Nothing good comes out of government. Cut down regulations. All of this other kind of stuff. And we're getting to reap what we sow. And it's time to stop this. It's time to get governance back in there. Efficient, effective regulation of a lot of these things is very, very important, especially Wall Street, especially coal ash, especially for-profit colleges, and especially carbon regulations. That's the contrast that we're going to see in the 2016 election.